are a lot of companies out there. They say, "Hey, we're data driven because I went and I bought a product and implemented it." Right? How do you tell the difference between, the company that just bought the product and implemented it just to, have the numbers over there and Welcome to the Financial Innovations Podcast, where we help CFOs save money and time by investing in cutting-edge technology. I have Maurizio Pisciotta here with me today. We're really excited to have you, Maurizio.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Daniel. It's a pleasure.
So Maurizio's got some great insights around data culture, and we'll get to that in a second over here. Definitely somebody that you should all be following on LinkedIn. He has a big presence. He's posting content very frequently around business intelligence. If you're into dashboarding or are looking to get started with BI or just optimize what you have, definitely pay attention to the tips and tricks that he's got. So Maurizio, I'll give you a second here if you want to just quickly introduce yourself, and then we'll jump right in.
Yeah, sure. Maurizio Pisciotta. I work as a head of BI and data analytics in Tella Digital. Tella is a marketing and BI service provider. I'm also involved in as a BI specialist in Die Capital, which is a private equity firm.
No, that's great. So I know one of the topics that we wanted to talk about in a little bit of detail here today was around data culture. So maybe if you want to just introduce the topic for our audience, and maybe share a little bit about why it's important for companies to build a data culture even before they get started with any of their implementations.
Yep, of course. So data culture is, it's a really wide topic. And I think, first, before discussing the importance of data culture, we should define what is, because there could be also some confusion around. Data culture refers to an organizations where data-driven decision-making are encouraged, valued, and those are part of a company's DNA. The very first companies that embraced data analysis early on were Walmart, Amazon. They gained a significant competitive advantage that even today they're still benefiting from. Walmart, for example, used data analysis and data culture to optimize supply chain, to reduce costs, and also offer prices to customers. So obviously, you see all those competitive advantages. And in other industry, Daniel, you can confirm that, especially in the financial sector, there is even a longer history of relying on data for assessment, investment decisions. So now we got to the importance of data culture for the organizations. Organizations have the opportunity today to get that competitive advantage that in the past basically only big organizations they could afford it. Today also small organization, medium organizations, they can have it for a fraction of what the cost was in the past. So this is thanks to innovations that obviously is driving down the cost. This is thanks to also an evolving data industry. So those are different reasons. But in to recap, I would say that a data culture gives you that competitive advantages, and the competitive advantage that you can get as organizations, they can also be different because, for example, it can improve the decision making process. It can improve your decisions. So we have different competitive advantages, and this one really depends also in the industry that a company is working. It depends on in which side and which retails. So it really we have a really many competitive advantages. Again, the first one is improving the decision making process. That's the first one. Today, companies, they need to act fast, they need to move fast, and they need to make informed decisions. So definitely data will speed up this process. The second is, data organizations can basically, you can find immediately what are the trends. You can find immediately what are the customer preferences. You can look what are the areas for improvement. So take, for example, Netflix. Netflix, they found, for example, what are the personalized content recommendation. Sometimes we see you may like this movie, you may like this TV series, and this one also enhance your basically your customer experience, which is it's another competitive advantage. So I believe there are plenty of advantages to decide if an organization wants to be a data culture. So those are, I would say, the main reason for organization to switch and to become more data culture.
Now, let me ask you this. There are a lot of companies out there, they say, hey, we're data driven because I went and I bought a product and implemented it, right? How do you tell the difference between, the company that just bought the product and implemented it just to, have the numbers over there, and the ones that, that really, I guess, believe in it and follow that paradigm there?
Yeah, really, it depends on the like. It's a tough to understand which company is using data in the right way, and this one is because it's something that it's in the process. It's like it's behind every single process. It's how they make the decision. So for us, from like an outsider, it's tough to understand if they're making decisions based on data. But this one can be shown after several years, after several periods, can be seen that was an improvement, for example, like in revenues as a reducing cost. So when we look, as from a financial standpoint, when you look at a P&L and L and you look that a company is consistently driving down the cost, so the revenue is driving up, for example, the margins that are going up, it's because it means that they're doing something right. And this one, it can be good, it can be for products, it can be also for data use, so it can be for different reasons.
Yeah, no, that's great to know, right? Because it's a lot of companies, they just say, "Hey, look, I bought Power BI, Tableau, I have dashboards, I have real time insights into my data, but they're not using it, right? So it's a matter of don't just implement the technology because someone said, hey, this is going to lead to cost savings. The cost savings don't come just because you bought the product. The cost savings come because you're using it.
Exactly, and this one also brings us to our next topic, which is like what is the training that is also required, because you may have all the BI tool, you may have all the best data scientists in the world, but then if you don't know how to use data, if you're not really using that data to drive your information, then it's gonna be useless. So sometimes it's also like training is definitely important, and also like basically help the team that is not data savvy to understand why you're there, understanding that you're part of the team and you want to help them in making decisions. It's a win-win strategy.
Right. So the way I think about this, right, like companies are in a couple different buckets, right? They're the ones that say, all right, I know that I need these capabilities and I want to get started today. There's others that maybe they've already invested in a product or two, and they either want to optimize how they're using the tools that they have, or maybe they did an implementation, it didn't go as well as planned, or they're not getting the ROI from it, and they want to kind of rethink how they're using the product. So if I'm a company that says I hear dashboards, data driven analytics, those types of terminologies, and I say, all right, I want to get started today. What would I do in order to save time, headaches along the journey, versus just going and picking a vendor or a product, and kind of learning as I go. Can you share some of those like lessons learned, and how to get set up and started?
Yep. So what I learned is, unfortunately, like a universal type of implementation doesn't exist. Every organization is different. Yes, there may be some similarities, but we always need some level of tuning. For organizations to start this journey, first it's fundamental to have someone who possess a clear vision for data and the capability to turn that vision into reality. that person can be hired, they can be a consultant. Usually this second option, hiring a consultant, is usually the cheapest and also the fastest way to start. And it's because, again, it's the cheapest way. And then eventually, when you see that organization starts to having, maybe has a bigger budget, they can have, like, finance allows it, then the organization can start looking to hire more people and having like a data department. So it's important also to understand when to start, when to begin doing that. And I'm always saying that the right time to do it is now, because the longer we delay, the more challenging it becomes, especially as we continue to generate data at an exponential rate. Let's make, like, for example, an example on how to get started. Let's imagine we are operating in a company that is operating in the retail sector, and it won't become a data driven organizations. Again, we need first someone with a vision, or like at least a spark of a concept. We need to answer certain questions. Why do we want to be data driven? What is the value that we want to what is the value that we want to have from these new type of processes? What problems we want to solve? And we don't need to answer immediately to all those answer to all those questions, but at least we have to have, like, we need to have a first understanding of why we want to become a data driven organizations. And that's why a consultant or someone hiring someone as a data vision can help us. He can help us to solve these problems, because that's the, I will say, the vision part. Then the data expert, as you're saying, a company may have a data structure, they may not have a data structures, and that's probably the role of the data expert, where you need to study the data foundation of the organizations. Because again, we can find a company that has already a data architecture, so they may have a data lakehouse, they may have a data warehouse, and you can develop your plan in a certain way. But you can also find organizations that completely lack of any solutions. So then in that case, your solution as a data expert is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be around the data infrastructure, is going to be understanding the organization's priorities, and then you can work with the executives, you can work with with your client to define, basically to define milestones and defining like a data plan.
Yeah, I think that's great insight because, at least, what I see in my experience is, a lot of vendors approach, big organizations and they say, hey, look, do you guys have dashboards or do you have analytics capabilities? And, they either say, yes, we do, or they say, no, we don't. They say, no, we don't. They say, oh, you got to buy this product. And, they buy the product and they say, I have the dashboard, right? Versus understanding what is it that you want to get out of this in the first place, which I think was a great point that you raised. Is don't go in buying the product and then figuring out how to use it. You want to understand what is the end result that I want, and then what is the best product to go and get me to where I want to be.
Exactly, and the end result, it's always I always call that one as the value that it brings. And the value, we can talk values in different ways. If we're talking with a CFO, you want to say, okay, the value is going to be the return on investment. If we're talking with a marketing, is going to be, I want to know exactly what is the churn rate, and I want to understand how my promotions are working. So the value can also be looked in different ways, depending on also, like, with who you're trying to basically solve problems. Who you're trying to sell your services, or, like, help the companies basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Other areas where I see, project like this getting a little bit derailed is, not bringing the right people in, getting buy-in from the right people early in the process, and, not, getting support from everyone you need before the project begins. Cause, afterwards it can be very time consuming and costly to do it. So, I guess who would you advise? Company says I want to improve my BI and analytics capabilities today. Who are the people in their organization that they should, really be talking to and getting that buy-in before they begin their journey?
Yes, I will answer this like in the most common way we data people like to answer, it depends. It depends. We always say it depends on, but really it depends on like what is the organization and how the organization is structured. If the organization, for example, like it's a small organization under 20 employees, it's usually the owner or the finance manager who decides. If you go to medium or large companies, then it's when it gets a little bit more complex because you may need approval from different departments. You may need approval from the IT department because most of the times you're dealing with confidential data, with sensitive data. So in that case, you need also like an additional approval. You may need also marketing approval. You may need, so it can be a little bit more challenging. But one probably the major challenge, the probably the one challenge is the, how can I say, the major challenge could be in the executive resistance to this investment. And again, it's the things that we said before, everything goes down to the value that you're providing. The value can be as a time saving by transitioning from like an Excel solution that they're currently adopting to a Power BI or a Python. And in this case, you can help them to free up resources for other tasks. It can be, this time saved can be easily converted in a dollar amount and used as a reference. So it can be seen as a demo. It can also be looked as highlighting, for example, missed opportunities if we're talking with a marketing department, because you may be promoting a product for like a month, 2 months. You think that is running really good because he's selling like a high quantities, but maybe you will be selling either way that quantities because the foot traffic is increasing over time. So you may actually losing margin and you're losing opportunity. So it really depends with who you're talking, and it's going to be challenging because it's going to be based on the companies that you're talking to. So it depends on the organizations. Every organization has a champion, has a different type of champions. If you're really fortunate, that you may find a decision making champion that is like CEO, for example, who believes in the power of data. You are gold. You're in a good position. However, the decision maker sometimes isn't the same as your champion. And so that's when our goal is to demonstrate, how the proposed solution will genuinely benefit the business and how it can bring value, how you can add value to the company.
Yeah, that's a great point. And, it all revolves around understanding how you're going to use the technology, right? Because to your point, you can use dashboards, analytics, BI as a way of, helping your marketing capabilities, in which case you'll want to make sure you have a representative from marketing. I think in all cases, you probably, always want to have a representative from IT involved, unless you're a very small shop where you may not have a dedicated IT function. But if you're using these for the purpose of just financial, reporting and performance, then maybe it's just a matter of having finance and IT involved. Maybe there are, different groups in there. You really want to go in with that understanding of this is how we're going to use the technology, not we bought it, now let's start trying to shove it into different departments to see where it's going to be helpful or not. And I think it all goes back to that data culture point that that you brought up in the beginning of you really have to have a mindset around using data to benefit your business. It's not a matter of implement this or buy this or hire this guy to go and do it. It's a matter of if you have that mindset, everything else is going to revolve around that, and you'll use that really to drive who you're going to bring on board, where you're going to implement the technology, what technology you're going to bring, and what benefit it's going to bring to your organization.
Exactly, and anyway, these type of changes, they take time. You can't expect to have a data culture in a month or 2 months just by investing in a expensive tool, an expensive data team. It takes time, and it has to be, you got to develop a plan where you're working consistently also with other departments, so you're bringing this data culture. So eventually, it's going to be worth it, but again, it takes time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I say all the time, I bought I bought a set of weights that are sitting in the corner of my office over here, thinking that I'd get in shape just because I bought the weights. But just having them isn't gonna give me a six pack over here. It's you got to
Exactly.
actually use it and use it the way that you're supposed to as well.
Exactly.
One thing I wanted to talk to you is as well is just in terms of AI. So everybody is talking AI these days. I think it's a bit of mixed reviews at this point. Of there are people that think it's the best thing ever. There are people that think that it's going to take away everybody's jobs and roles. So I guess just kind of what before we start talking a little bit about bringing AI into your analytics capabilities, like what is your overall view of AI, and is it a job killer? Is it a opportunity for new types of jobs? What do you think?
Well, I definitely embraced AI. I'll say that AI definitely has influenced our lives, particularly in the past years. With the you see emergence of new LLMs like ChatGPT, Bard, and others, and this trend has led many companies to adopt AI to enhance their operations. And however, what I'm saying is always that we gotta be careful. Some companies are adopting AI just because it's the buzzword and everybody's doing it. But it's crucial to remember that AI it's merely a tool. It does if it doesn't add value, like I'm always with this word value. If it doesn't add value to your business, it will not be beneficial in the long term, and you're actually just wasting capital. You're just burning capitals. For example, like I frequently use ChatGPT. I use Bard for tasks like dashboard development. I use it for coding, for market research, but because I value them, for their time-saving capabilities. But other companies, they may ask immediately to have certain AI. So it happens often that they ask me to integrate a chat GPT like feature, into a dashboard. And I always approach this one with caution because, the effectiveness of AI response depends heavily on the quality of the underlying data. You need to have the back end of data really clean because then you're going to apply the same principle garbage in, garbage out, which is like it's one of our gold standards, which means that if you don't have quality data on the back end, what is going to happen is that you're not going to have a good reports, and if you don't have good reports, you're going to make decisions based on bad reports. So you know already where I'm going. So you need to have good and clean data to start applying those, but it requires time. It requires a good data infrastructure. It requires to have like different type of technologies behind to start applying those AI. So again, AI is we're going to remember definitely this period, these years as a great for the great use and adoption that we have right now for generative AI. But again, it's just a tool, so we should use it only if there is like value in adopting it. If we don't have any value, if it's not saving you time, if it's not making you money, probably you're doing something wrong, or actually you don't need to use it.
Sure. And I think another important item to note too is you have to make sure the underlying data is good. You also have to make sure that you know how to ask the AI to get to what you want, right? So you're able to have it build dashboards to do coding for you because you know what to tell it, right? Versus there are a bunch of people who've approached me with, oh, hey, I'm trying to get Chat GPT to write a macro for me, and they're not specifying everything that they would need for it to do what it needs to do, versus me being a developer and knowing the questions I would ask if they were hiring me to do it. I can say, oh, you have to specify this and this and this, and now you run it through and it gives you great working code on the first try, versus you're tinkering with it, you're not really specifying what you need to specify, and the end result there is not exactly what you expect.
Exactly. It's going to the prompt engineering and how you're basically creating your prompt. If you start your prompt with act as data expert Power BI data expert, I want you to write it down, and you want to ask him, for example, for a certain dashboard or for a certain code, the answer is going to be different if you ask immediately without the first prompt. So also in that case, it's now we're seeing different jobs. We're seeing data engineering, we see prompt engineering. So we have new roles right now that a couple of years ago they were going to exist. So it's we have new jobs. When there is like a new technologies, usually yes, certain jobs they are a risk. This unfortunately it's something that it's going to happen also in the future when new technologies will be created. But there will always be new jobs. What is important is always we are updated. We keep like an open mind, and we keep using those tools because again they're just tools to help us to get more efficient and work in the best way possible.
Yeah, no, that's great. Where do you see AI, playing a role with, dashboarding, with data analysis, in general?
Yes, so there are different type of AI. So right now, if we're talking, for example, like for the LLM model, so again, ChatGPT or Bard, I would say that definitely that help you to they speed up your process. I'm currently using for example, for not really for dashboard creation, but I'm using mainly for example, getting formulas or to getting some insights. Sometimes if you want to get certain formulas in DAX or in M, which are the languages used in Power BI, in the past I was watching YouTube videos and I was spending a lot of time researching. Now it gets my job a little bit faster. So it definitely speed up my process. So this one it's not only from my hand but also from for example like from a web scraping project. We were working on a web scraping project, and before you had to learn the, for example, if you want to do a web scraping project in Python, you had to find the package, you have to find the libraries, then you have to study that, you have to, so it will take time. Right now, it's easier because you can tell immediately to ChatGPT, okay, act as a Python expert web scraper, and I need you to scrape, this website. You give the parameters, and after a little bit of tweaking, it's gonna find, it's gonna give you like a good code. And again, I web scraped a page in a day without knowing the package, while in the past it would have taken me like a weeks. So that's definitely like the improvement that you can have from those tools, basically from those AIs.
Yeah, I mean, even anyone that's doing any kind of coding or anything, they're all familiar with sites like Stack Overflow and so forth, where you're looking for a sample code to do what you're looking to do, and nobody's ever doing exactly what you're looking to do, and so you're googling, you find something that's kind of like what you need, but has to be heavily modified to go and customize it for what it is you're looking to do, versus being able to enter into an AI. Here's what I'm looking to do. I'm if you know what libraries you want to use versus asking recommendations, it can do both. And to just say, hey, look, I want to do X, Y, and Z, and it'll go and and do it for you. And now you have something that's written for your specific use case versus having to go and find this snippet of this person's code and that snippet of that person's code, and convert them over, and then you find that they're not in the same programming language you want to use, and dealing with with all those headaches versus just entering in one prompt and getting the result that that you're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. And you can see also that in I saw a trend a couple of weeks ago that you can see the traffic that actually Stack Overflow is having, like, in the past year. And it's like a third of what it was like, 3, 4 years ago, because now everybody's kind of like start using, all those AI, generative AI to get their code, while before everybody were doing like exactly like you were saying. Like, we go to Stack Overflow, we start researching, we copy a snippet of code, we paste that, it's not working because maybe using a different package. Right now, like, if it's not working, you can simply say to ChatGPT, it's not working, find another solution. Or for example, like, give me 3, 4 options to create this or to solve this problem. So you will find way, like, faster the solutions that you're looking for.
Yeah, no, that's great. Are there any particular? I know you've mentioned ChatGPT, you mentioned Bard. Are there, for data analysis, for dashboarding? Do you have a preference in terms of what you're using, or what you find more helpful than others?
I'm using most of the time Bard for market research. So if I need to find something on Google, usually I'm using Bard just because I see that I have better results than ChatGPT. While ChatGPT is mainly used for maybe creating like even to create like a better prompt. Sometimes I ask ChatGPT to have to create a better prompt, so then I can use it on a new chat. So if it's basically for coding or certain analysis, I use ChatGPT. And if it's like for market researches, so looking for Google and others, I'm going to use Bard because then I can also ask to double check the informations. And because you can click on the Google Chrome icons, and you can actually give you also like the reference. So then you can also go check the reference, and because sometimes you want to do that, especially if you're doing like a market research and you're trying to show that the numbers are right. You don't want to end up to the presentations, they ask you, where did you find this information, and say Bart gave me this information. No, you want to go to the resource. You want them to help you, but you still want to double check that everything is it's fine and it's accurate.
Yeah, no, I remember, doing research on Chat GPT and, just, entering, I need a statistic on, number of, customers that, run into this issue or whatever. And it'll say, oh, 79% of people run into this. And I'll say, okay, can you please cite your source? And I'll say, oh, I don't have a source behind it. This is just kind of from what I've been observing, and reading about. Right. So, you always want to, make sure that I'm sure at some point we'll get to better accuracy in AI, and you won't have to necessarily go and fact check every single thing that you're looking up. But it's important to know that at least for now, anytime you're getting sources, you're checking out those sources. It sounds like from your experience, Bard gives you those sources right there. That way, you can easily just check them out versus having to ask for them, or hope that they're there or that they're right. Using other technologies at this point.
Exactly, and that's one of the things that we do more often. Like when we discuss about data, you always want to make sure that data accuracy, the data is right. You want to check the accuracy. You want to check that it's reliable. So those are probably the main things that it comes also like from our side as a data expert. But then you want to keep using that. You don't want to just forget about it and think, okay, now I'm using a tool that is really smart, that is able to get all this data, so I'm going to stop doing that. You want to keep, check, if the accuracy it's good, and if the data is accurate.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Do you see, like, as it relates to BI dashboard specifically? Do you see AI replacing like dashboard implementations, where now users go and just type, hey, I want visualizations on these five things, and it goes and generates for it? Do you think that companies are going to have just maybe a smaller core set of dashboards they have, and then AI is going to kind of fill in the like ad hoc kind of requests? Where do you think that kind of that overlap of AI and BI is going to happen?
hmm So, in order to AI has to replace us completely, we need to have companies need to know exactly what they want. So we're fine. So that's why we're totally fine from that. The AI is not going to replace us. It's going to. I mean, obviously there will be certain. If before we needed two data analysts and we needed like two developer. Right now maybe you need just one of each. So maybe in this case, okay, yes, it's replacing us, but again, it's adding also like other jobs. From a dashboard creations, you still need some level of tuning. Right now, Fabric, actually Microsoft introduced a new co-pilot, which allows you to basically create almost already like a dashboard. But again, me as a data analyst, I will go there and I will go check, for example, like if the formula is accurate. I want to go check that everything is fine. You want to check. So it's going to help your job. It's going to help your work for sure. But you still need to check. You still need to make sure that everything it's running properly and the calculations are right. So you want to make sure that the schema behind is working properly and it's fine and it's clean. So it will not replace story loss. We will have new jobs, but again, it's going to speed up our process. So that's the main things for how it's going to be used in dashboard and AI. That's what I believe it is.
Yeah, because I see companies use the same sets of dashboards, reports, all the time, and to I don't necessarily see that getting replaced by AI. Because if you're going to ask for the information this month, and then you're going to ask for it again next month and the month after, you don't want to have to ask the AI for it every single time, right? You want to just have dashboards at your disposal that are going to just show you what it is you want to see over and over again. You do see instances where worked at a client in the past where they say, "Oh, hey, this is the Mary report and the Jim report and the thing that one person built." Who knows if the person's even still working at the company anymore, but they built it and everyone's kind of looking at that, and it might be just how that person wants to see the data, where those types of like one-off ad hoc kind of requests become a, hey, just maybe ask for what it is you want to see and get the answer, rather than having a dashboard built out, whereas in the past every individual person's request would get their own dashboard or report.
Yes, and it goes also to the domain knowledge that a certain company has, because you may have some departments that may be really expert in a certain, for example, promotional strategies. So you can elaborate like a more sophisticated dashboards with different insights and also different KPIs. But then what happens is, if you don't have like a really technical if you don't have like a really technical department, and then you're developing something that it's a little bit too complicated, they're not going to use it. So you also want to check with the users and see, okay, what is the domain knowledge, what are the KPIs that they're able to implement immediately and they can understand, because then applying like particular algorithms and trying to explain them what is the lift, what is the confidence, what is the, they don't need to know. But then maybe the AI is going to develop that, because that's actually, it could be the best things that the AI can do. And actually, if you're using that one, it will also increase your sales. But if they don't know if they don't know how to use it or how to adopt that, it's going to be useless. So also in that case, the data figure is going to be also that figure that he has to train, and he helps to help the other departments to get closer to applying data. And he can help them to train, he can help them to basically make them understand better the BI solutions that the company or the organizations may have.
Yeah, no, those are great points, and I know we talked a bit about kind of some futuristic topics over here, but just curious, in terms of the future of data industry, like where do you see things going? Where what is going to be the evolving trends and technology in the next few years?
Yep. So the future definitely is bright if we are willing to embrace it. I believe that in the future, organizations that they will be leveraging data will become almost like a standard, will become like the norm, because those that are failing to adopt data driven strategy, they risk to falling behind and losing from competition. So to recap, organizations definitely there will be like a wider adoption of data solution, especially for small and medium-sized companies. But for data professionals, also I'll see they will say like a bright future, because as we were saying before, we see new roles that they're not popping up basically every month. We said prompt engineering before, this role didn't exist. So we're going to have new roles, and I believe we're going to have also like an increasing focus on the back end of data, because as we said, the back end of data, the data management, it's really really important, and we need to make sure that data is clean. So definitely there will be maybe more stress, more focus on data engineering's role. And I see also like an increase of collaborative environment, which is places where you have It's an environment that facilitates the work from different type of data roles. And we have this one, for example, like in Microsoft Fabric. Fabric is in the past, it was in preview 6 months ago, so it's relatively like a new product, but it's an environment where you can have data science, you can have data engineer, you can have data warehouse, data lakehouse, so you can have a place where everybody is working. While before we had someone that was working on a database, so Amazon Redshift, another one's data science is using Python, another one is in data visualization. So everybody was using, and then to merge all those tools, it was taking time. Now I see an increase again in this collaborative environment, which is again, it's going to be just a place where everybody can work, everybody can collaborate, and there will be less friction between those roles.
Yeah, no, that's great. So I know we're getting to the end over here. Highly encourage everybody listening to to follow Maurizio, and what is the best place for people to connect with you? Is it LinkedIn? Do you have other social media that you want our viewers to follow you?
No, that the best place would be LinkedIn. It's the only one that I'm using so far.
Okay, perfect. So we'll share that with the viewers as well. Highly encourage you to follow Maurizio. Highly encourage everybody to like, comment, and subscribe on to our videos. That way we can have other great guests on here sharing their knowledge with you as well. Just want to say thank you so much for coming on here and sharing all of your insights with our audience.
No, thank you for having me, Daniel.